If you died tomorrow, what would you regret? 76% of people on their deathbed say, I wish I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life others expected of me. Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm an astrologer, and I want to talk about my approach to astrology and what you can expect from an astrology session with me. My practice is anchored in authenticity and helping people understand and articulate who they are so they can step into a more honest version of themselves and have a more fulfilling life. A lot of social pressure exists for us to conform. On top of that, we're members of a variety of groups that each have their own norms. What's acceptable with our family differs from what's acceptable with our schoolmates, and what's acceptable with our coworkers differs from what's acceptable with our friends. We're constantly navigating various rules and expectations about how we're supposed to be. This sets us up for a mighty struggle with just being ourselves. If our most authentic way of being goes against the group too aggressively, we might find ourselves in a dangerous situation. We wind up taking on personas and behaving in ways that conform as a means of self-protection and survival. This is how I've come to anchor my practice in authenticity, which I see as the key to a good life. First of all, being authentic feels way, way better than pretending to be someone you're not. Authenticity feels like wearing the right size shoes, and pretending feels like walking around with cement blocks on your feet. Secondly, when we pretend to be anything other than ourselves, we wind up creating a life suited to our pretend self rather than a life that will fulfill our real self. If you're not being your authentic self, you're also probably not making choices in line with your values. You might even be making choices that go against your values. This leads to a life that fits a pretend version of you, but feels like cement blocks on the feet of the real you. That's how so many of us wind up at the end of our lives, wishing we'd just had the courage to live for ourselves. When we're able to be authentic, we feel better inside. Our sun is able to shine. And feeling better inside impacts how we engage with the world outside. If we're being authentic and making authentic choices, our life begins to reflect us more fully and becomes more enjoyable to live. Knowing ourselves authentically is necessary to having a fulfilling life. There are lots of ways to get to know yourself better. Therapy, meditation, mindfulness, art, music, travel, and a host of other activities all help us learn about and understand ourselves. Astrology expedites this process by revealing dynamics we might not be able to identify any other way. There are questions I've had about myself and issues I've struggled with that only astrology has been able to unlock. It's like the self is this huge maze, and when we get stuck in a dead end, astrology can open a hidden door that keeps us moving. When I talk to people in an astrology session, there's one thing that everybody says eventually, which is something along the lines of, I can't believe how much information this chart has about me. Because astrology isn't just about our sun sign, which is what you're referring to when you answer the question, what's your sign, but about all the celestial bodies in our solar system. In a birth chart, we look at the sun, the moon, and the planets. These represent universal archetypes. Archetype is a big word that makes my brain want to shut down, but all it means is a typical example of something. Archetypes are universal. Everyone has an inner warrior, nurturer, lover, critic, cheerleader. Different parts of our personality come out depending on the situation. Sometimes those parts work well together. The warrior flips the cheerleader and catches her safely to great applause. And sometimes they don't. The critic tells the lover she's not good enough and scares her away from love forever. We also have free will. Astrology describes the potential we're born with, and our life experiences shape how we express that potential. You might have been born with a fiery inner warrior, but had a childhood that punished your spirit. As an adult, you might wind up being a quiet person who fears taking risks, even though you still feel that fiery warrior blazing inside. Someone else born with the same fiery warrior, who's raised in an environment that celebrates their spirit, will grow into a much different person. Both spirits will want to express that fiery warrior energy, but one may struggle with expressing it at all, while the other struggles with expressing it too intensely. So, what happens when you sit down for a session with me? There's a few things that I say to everyone. I check your birth information to make sure we're looking at the right chart. I tell you that this is a situation where there's one-way confidentiality, meaning I won't share anything you say with anyone else, but you're free to talk to whoever you want about our session. I ask if you'd like to record the session so you can revisit it later, which I recommend. And then I tell you that this is a collaborative effort, and you should talk at least as much as me, if not more, because I'm not here to tell you who you are. No one can tell you who you are better than you. I'm here as your guide and translator. I look at your birth chart and give you my thoughts on what your astrology describes, and you share how that energy is showing up in your life so far. Our time together is an investigation into what your chart describes and how you're experiencing it. Finally, I'll ask if there's anything specific you want to focus on, and if not, I'll want to know what's going on for you right now. Sessions look different from there. If you've never explored your astrology before, I'll start with the major components of your chart, describing what each represents, the area of life it's active in, the style of behavior, and how it's interacting with the rest of your chart. I'll eventually ask you a question, and as you answer, I'll listen for the archetypes coming through in the language you use to figure out where to guide the conversation. There's something exceptionally relieving about seeing yourself reflected in the map of the stars. You're able to let go of a lot of guilt, shame, and responsibility for things you had little to no control over. You're able to acknowledge certain dynamics you felt but haven't been able to articulate. And you get some reassurance that paths that have called to you are part of your story and that it's not outlandish to pursue those things. Astrology empowers you to accept who you are, and acceptance is the first step in the journey to self-love. Astrology isn't a way to abandon accountability for our actions, but to let go of that underlying fear that something has been wrong with us from the beginning, that we're supposed to be or feel different than we do. That's how I use astrology, as a map to self-discovery and fulfillment. It's a journey we can only take together and which I feel privileged to accompany you on. In addition to my astrological education, I have a bachelor's in anthropology from Boston University and an extensive coaching background as both a competitive gymnastics coach and a professional development coach. I've studied psychology and spent about a decade in therapy on my own journey of self-discovery, and I've come to understand that a happy and healthy life can only grow from a happy and healthy relationship to ourselves. We are the only person who's been with us the whole time and who will be with us to the very end of our lives. We have to be able to count on ourselves first and foremost, and that starts with knowing ourselves. Only when we know ourselves can we come to understand and accept ourselves. And only once we've accepted ourselves, our real self, can we start to love ourselves. Neil deGrasse Tyson once said, "The atoms of our bodies are traceable to stars that manufactured them in their cores and exploded these enriched ingredients across our galaxy billions of years ago. For this reason, we are biologically connected to every other living thing in the world. We are chemically connected to all molecules on Earth, and we are atomically connected to all atoms in the universe. We are not figuratively, but literally stardust." If everything's connected that way, is it really so wild to think maybe there's other connections as well? That maybe the position of the planets might reveal something about our experience, like a cosmic clock describing the energy around us? I used to worry before every session that this might be the one time that astrology didn't work, but I have never seen it not work. It's an incredible tool to add to your self-discovery toolkit. If you're interested in learning more, you can find me at astrologybyrenee.com or on socials at astrologybyrenee. I offer hour-long counseling sessions for individuals and relationship astrology for pairs or groups with flexible pricing so everyone who wants access to astrology can get it. If you like what I've said so far, it'd be super cool if you could help me reach more people. Like this video, add a comment, and share the link to anyone you think might resonate with what I've said. I really mean it when I say I want to help everybody have a better life, and I hope to have the chance to help you soon.